Hey y'all, this is Mindy Strong, and I have yet another Series 65 video from you. We are in the second section, investment vehicles, and today I'm going to talk to you about corporate debt. Remember, this is supplemental information I'm giving you. This is not intended to replace any course you should use for studying. There are a lot of great courses out there. I just created this to help myself. And then I decided to post them as videos to help others. Hope this helps you. Okay, corporate debt. So first of all, we are talking about long-term bonds, intermediate-term notes, and commercial paper. Every once in a while, you'll see questions on how this information is given, how it's registered, fully registered or book form. Commercial paper is book form only, and I think about it like this. Commercial paper is such a short-term debt that it makes more sense for them to not want to waste paper on it and to just essentially write it in book form. So that's how I remember it personally. And it looks like we're going backwards. There we go. Okay. So all corporate debt has a trust indenture, which is the bond contract. And on the bond contract, you will see the interest rate, the maturity date, the collateral if it's a secured debt, and any call or put provisions in there. So those are all expected to be found on the trust indenture. It's just a contract. Again, Series 65 uses a lot of different words to say the same thing. Okay, so first of all, secured corporate debt. If you have a secured debt, you're essentially saying, listen, if this debt isn't paid, then we get to take or collect this item from you. And so mortgage bonds are a type of secured debt. The real estate is the collateral, or you've got public utilities, and these mortgage bonds pay interest semi-annually. That is important to know. Another type of secured corporate debt is equipment trust certificates. The equipment is the collateral. Think of airlines. Often if they want to purchase a new airplane, they can use in order to get that loan, they will use collateral from an old airplane. And there are collateral trust certificates. These are big companies offer small companies as collateral. Okay, so listen, if we can't pay our debt, we're going to give you the rights to X company. Then there are open-end bonds. These require an additional bonds test. So let's say a company issues open-end bonds. They're saying, listen, this is the amount of money we think we're going to need, but if we do need more, then these parameters are in place, and if these parameters are met, then we will have the right to issue more bonds. But they have to pass the additional bonds test. And then there are closed-end bonds, which when they issue the bonds, that's all there will ever be. And any new bonds that are issued must be junior bonds. And that comes into play or becomes important if you have a failed issue and then you've got people needing to collect money. The junior bonds, they would have to wait in line and be reimbursed after those initial bonds. Secured corporate debt, which this is very logical, they offer lower interest rates and they're highly rated. Why? Because they're secured by something else, so they're less risky. However, remember, if you have something that's less risky, then you're going to accept a lower interest rate. So this makes sense. This is logical. Lower interest rates, they're highly rated. The default issues are lower with those. Now we have unsecured corporate debt. This is just backed by a promise to pay. And that's the promise to pay by the issuer. So you've got a higher credit risk here. Commercial paper, as I said, is the very short-term financing. It's anywhere from 270 days or less. Usually these are 30-day debts. They are issued at a discount and mature at par. Again, this is logical that they're issued at a discount and mature at par, because we talked about the fact that there are semi-annual payments. But if you've got something that's going to be done in 270 days or paid back or 30 days, then obviously you can't get your interest payments, right? So these are issued at a discount and mature at par. They're usually sold in larger increments of money between 100,000 and $1 million. Again, these are book entry form. Like I said, I think about it like this. They're issued so commonly that it's just going to be written in a book as opposed to fully registered. And there is a limited trading opportunity for this. So this is not something that's easy to get and relieve yourself of. Okay, debentures. Debentures are the intermediate and long-term corporate debts. They have no collateral backing. They're unsecured. And they can be subordinated, which means they're paid last. So again, if you've got a bankruptcy issue, these are going to be paid last. And some of these are called junk bonds. That means that the credit rating of the company issuing them is not the best. They often do have conversion features to make them a little more attractive. And they are guaranteed issued by sometimes they're guaranteed. And what guaranteed are is they're issued by a subsidiary company with corporate parent company paying the interest and the principal. So it's like a parent saying, yep, I got it. I will pay the interest and the principal on this. Okay. Makes sense? Unsecured. And another type is income bonds, also known as adjustment bonds. These are issued when a company is trying to recover from bankruptcy. So basically, you've got something where a company is going under. They want to try to get as much money as they can. So you get to accept a new type of bond, and they have to pay only if they have sufficient earnings. The principal is adjusted so that people are okay with this new bond. Obviously, this is a high credit risk situation, and these trade flat, which mean no interest because they're not currently paying interest. They're trading flat. Again, all of this makes sense. When you are reading questions on the Series 65, if you understand these concepts, if you know that an income bond or an adjustment bond is a bond taken out by a company that is recovering from bankruptcy, it makes sense that they're not going to have sufficient earnings. They're not going to be paying out interest. And this is going to be risky, right? All of this makes sense as long as you know what an income bond is. They need income. They need income. And that is why they're issuing these bonds. A Yankee Bond is a bond of foreign companies that's sold in the U.S., and they are used because, obviously, the U.S. market is large and safe, and they pay interest in U.S. dollars semi-annually. The only questions that I've really seen or that I can remember seeing on Yankee Bonds have to do more with just the definition of the term, what they are. They're bonds of foreign companies. If they're sold in the U.S., they pay interest in U.S. dollars. Makes sense. Yankee Bond. Okay, so we have convertible corporate bonds. These can be converted into common stock and set per share. The conversion price is set at a premium to the current market price. Duh, right? Obviously, the conversion price, the price at which it can be converted from a bond to common stock, is going to be set at a premium. That means it's going to be set higher than it currently is. Okay, the conversion ratio is the par value of the bond divided by the conversion price. I would absolutely make a 3x5 card, an index card on this. And then parity price. If you're trying to compare the parity price of the bond, is the conversion ratio type times the stock market price. And then we have the parity price of the stock. You take the bond market value divided by the conversion ratio. These are all very important to know. I would memorize these. And also, it makes sense, right? If you're looking at the parity price of a bond, you're going to have to multiply by the conversion ratio and the stock market price, whereas the price of the stock, you're going to have to do division and divide the bond market by the conversion ratio. Okay, convertible. Arbitrage. The concept of arbitrage is buying something for one amount of money and selling it for more to make a profit. That is the definition of arbitrage. So this is when a trader buys a lower price security and then sells the higher price security and locks in a profit. This is done all over the place, all over the world. In fact, I used to sell on Amazon, and one of the things I did is I would find something that I could buy at the store for, let's say, $2 and resell it on Amazon for $5. Boom, there's a profit. That's arbitrage. Buy convertible bond and sell the stock equivalent is one way in which this is often done using the convertible bonds. But it only works when the security trades below parity. Again, that makes sense. It has to be trading below parity in order for you to gain a profit. So if it's above par, it's going to act like stock. And if it's below par, it's going to act like a bond. Above par, it's going to act like a stock. Below par, it's going to act like a bond. There are advantages and disadvantages to the issuer of convertible bonds. So let's think about this. We have the issuer, the person who's actually selling the corporate bond. Let's think of the convertible corporate bond. Let's think of the advantages and how this would make sense. So the lower interest rates are, the more of an advantage it is for an issuer, because these can be converted from bond to stock if the price raises. Okay? And another advantage of a convertible bond is it's callable. And it's a forced conversion. So if the interest rates fall, the issuer can call it back and sell it at a lower interest rate. Remember, the interest rate is the payment that the issuer has to make on the bond. So if the interest rates drop, the issuer can call these suckers back or have a forced conversion and then resell them with a lower interest rate. Duh, makes sense. Okay. A disadvantage is that when these are converted to stock, this is going to dilute the earnings per share of stock because there are more shares now. So each share is going to be worth less. So that is a disadvantage of convertible bonds. And then another disadvantage is the bonds that are issued are a debt. When they're converted to a stock, they become equity. So it changes from a tax-deductible payment to a dividend payment. So the tax implications are different for the issuer at that point. These are the advantages and disadvantages to the issuer of a convertible bond. Let's look at the advantages and disadvantages of a convertible bond to the bondholder, the person who purchased the convertible bond. The advantage is capital gains are possible if the stock goes up. If the stock goes up and you are able to convert it, boom, you've got capital gains. And if you haven't converted it and you're still a bondholder at this point, you have priority over the stockholders in any liquidation. So basically, these are the first advantage is you can convert it to stock if the price goes up, but the advantage of having the bond is that you're going to have that priority over stockholders if liquidation happens. But there are disadvantages as well. The disadvantage is these convertible bonds are sold at lower interest rates. Obviously, they're sold at lower interest rates because of this convertible feature. And there's also a dilution if a lot of them are converted from bond to stock. So again, just as they said the issuer, the more stock that's issued, the less each stock is worth. Same thing here. If a lot of them are converted from bonds to stock, then it's going to be a dilution of earnings. All makes sense if you understand the concepts. Okay, there is something called retiring debt. And so they've created a sinking fund. Money is going to be put into this fund periodically, and it's used to pay for the bond either at maturity or early. It's called a sinking fund. Taxation of corporate debt. Okay. The interest income is fully taxable in the year it's paid by the federal, state, and local governments. Now, zero interest coupon bonds and commercial paper are both issued at a discount and they mature at par. So the interest is assessed at the end of the year for those. For those issued for longer than 1 year, the interest income must be taken as income that year, which means that zero coupon bonds are typically held in tax-deferred accounts for this reason, because people don't want to pay tax on money they haven't received. And zero coupon bonds, it is issued at a discount and matures at par, which means that you're not going to get your money, the interest that you're accruing until the end. But they're assessing you on the taxes as if you've received that. So this is something you want to put in a tax deferred account so that you're not paying taxes on money you haven't received yet. Makes sense. Lastly, there is a claim priority in any liquidation, and I touched on this. First of all, you've got your secured creditors. Those are the mortgage bondholders, equipment trust certificates, and the other examples I used. Second is any unpaid wages and taxes. So that's crazy. The secured creditors get paid before any unpaid wages or taxes. And then you've got the debenture bondholders. And then remember, sometimes we have subordinated debenture bondholders. If they decide to issue additional bonds, those come next. And then you have your preferred stockholders. And lastly, you have your common stockholders. Okay. And that's it. That's corporate debt. And the main questions here are going to be on interest payments and on the conversion features. What happens if a bond is converted? The idea of premium versus discount versus par. So I hope this has helped. Again, this is only to be supplemental. And let me know what you think if this helps you at all.